The video you're about to watch is the ultimate guide for Game Week 29 in FPL. We've got the latest fixture news, the best times to play your chips, all the underlying data, top expected points by position, goal scoring odds, clean sheet odds, the best team in the game according to AI, and players that I'm personally targeting for this game week. So stick around to watch it all. So starting things off then, we've got the upcoming fixtures from Game Week 29 right up until the end of the season. Now, since Game Week 28 finished, we've had a couple of announcements. Firstly being Game Week 32 is confirmed to be a blank for Brighton, Chelsea, Man United and Man City. We've also, in the last couple of days since I'm recording this video, we've got a double announced in 34. So Brighton, Fulham, Liverpool, Man City, Man United and West Ham all have a double game week in Game Week 34. It's going to be quite a challenge to navigate some of these, given a lot of teams that double in 29 and 34 also blank in 32. So there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing teams, or maybe playing some chips to help you navigate those, and I'll show you in some later slides what to do with those in my opinion. What I've done on the left is just annotated it with teams depending on their number of fixtures available, and I've differently coloured the ones with the most. So Brighton are the top teams in terms of fixtures remaining for the rest of the season. They've got 13 left, and 4 of those could well be double game weeks, which is really exciting. Man United, Liverpool, Man City and West Ham, Newcastle and West Ham all have 12 fixtures remaining. So definitely looking to bring in some players from those teams. And yeah, the rest of the guys, 10 and 11 respectively, but that's not necessarily ruling out their players. But yeah, in terms of fixtures alone, there are definitely some standout teams to pick your players from. Okay, for this next bit, me and my mate Big Sam are in the kebab shop cooking up the best chip strategies, the best times to play your remaining wildcard if you've got it, your bench boost, your triple captain, or your free hit. Okay, so starting off with the bench boost, I think it makes sense to play this chip on weeks where, there are a number of teams with a double game week. And that is 29, where I'm looking to play mine personally, the way my chips have been remaining and the way my team is set up. Looks like 29 is probably the best time to do it. But you could also play it in 34 as well. There's enough teams in 34 that have a double game week where you could bring yourself, 15 players. That's the max you can have, obviously, in FPL in total in your team with a double game week. So yeah, for me, the big double game weeks are the times to play this chip, and that's Game Week 29 and Game Week 34. On now to the free hit, and for me, there's only one real time where I think there's an absolute standout chance to play it, and that's in Game Week 32. The reason I say that is because the teams with the most fixtures left, or the most double game weeks coming up, the likes of Brighton, Man City and Man United, and Chelsea, even teams you're going to be buying players from, basically, they all have a blank in 32, and that's, for me at least, and probably for you as well, it's a large majority of your team. So it makes sense, rather than using your free transfers to get rid of them, it's just to play your free hit that week, to pick players from teams that don't blank and carry on as normal for the rest of the season, with a team, of course, full of Brighton, Chelsea, Man City and Man United players that's well set up for Game Week 33 and beyond. I'd also say that 29 and 34 are also opportunities, more 29 I guess, because if your team at the moment's not set up for this double game week coming up, you're really going to fall behind, I think, because a lot of people are going to consider playing their bench boost this week with a fully stacked out team. And if your team's not up to scratch for 29, I think realistically you're going to have to play your free hit to keep up with the pace, basically. If you're planning to play your wild card a bit later, or you've got a decent team for this week but planning to change some things, maybe 34 is another time to play that free hit with a lot of doubles. But really, 32 the main week, 29 is an alternative if you're not happy with your team at the moment. Looking at the wild card, there's a bit of a theme here with when the chips are best played, but genuinely, you've got to use these big double game weeks to maximise the points that you can score from your team, and that's what the wild card's all about, isn't it? Picking the best team in the game at the time that's going to score you the most points, and really, the double game weeks are the time when you've got to do that. So playing that wild card in either 29 if you're not happy with your team at the moment, or 34 if you're planning to use a lot of free transfers to navigate 32 maybe if you don't have a free hit, then wild card all the best doublers back in 34. That's another way to play it. But realistically, if you've still got that wild card chip, you're best off using it in your big double game weeks. And then the triple captaincy chip, if you've still got this left, then fair play to you for holding out for this long. I've shown in that red boxes there the best times I think you can play it. Really, for me, there are 3 players I'd consider using the triple captain on. I don't really go too rogue with my triple captaincy picks, like in terms of, down the pecking order of players. I don't know, triple captaining Jared Bowen in game week 29 is not something I'd recommend, but someone like Rashford, who's having an absolutely outstanding season, Mo Salah, who we all know can turn up in any game and score a hat-trick, and then Erling Haaland, that's just setting the world alight in terms of goals this season. And each of these players have double game weeks coming up. Some are better than others, and I think this week 29 is a good chance to use it on Rashford, as is 34. I think Salah and Haaland particularly in 34, that Fulham West Ham double is really nice to play that triple captain chip. And then 37, again, I would consider using it on Haaland for that. Chelsea and Brighton, 2 games you can see him scoring in, and it's the same for Rashford as well. Bournemouth and Chelsea is the fixtures. That's a really good opportunity as well to play it. But obviously, the 37 game week is in orange because it's very likely but not confirmed yet. 34 is, so you can make a solid plan if you either want to play that triple captain this week in 29 or 34. But yeah, I'd say probably 29 and 34 are the standouts. Ideally for me, I'd say Haaland in 34 is the best way to go, but I don't mind Rashford in 34 or 29 as well. 37 I wouldn't really plan for yet because it's not set in stone. Okay, on now to the top players for expected points by position, and it's no real surprise in terms of the goalkeepers and defenders that the top players are the teams that have a double game week. So top of the goalkeepers list is Steele for Brighton at the moment. I think he's a bit of a risk in terms of a pick. I think, certainly Draft Hound, the guys I get these stats from, they back him to start the games in 29, which I think is fair enough. I just think Sanchez is too good of a goalkeeper to be left out for too long. So I do see him as a threat. Then we've got Kepa, De Gea, Neto, Martinez, Areola, and so on. You can see the rest of the players there. In terms of defenders, top of the tree is Trippier. Obviously has the double game week this week and is just the highest scoring defender in FPL, so it's no real surprise to see him so high up. Chilwell, Estupinian, James, Veltman, Brighton boys, Luke Shaw from Man United, Trent. You can see the rest of the list there. But those are the top goalkeepers and defenders for game week 29. Onto the midfielders and the forwards, and obviously these are more likely to be expected more points, and that's exactly what we're seeing this week. So top of the tree of all players, joint at the moment, are Mo Salah and Marcus Rashford on 12.8. Matoma is a close third, along with Isaac, 11.3 and 11.2 respectively. You can see the rest of the players on this list here. Really like Bruno Fernandes as an option. I'm jealous of McAllister owners. I think of the 3 Brighton mids, and we'll get onto this, I think he's probably the best. Isaac tops the tree for strikers, followed by Tony, Ferguson, Ings, Nunez, Watkins, Havertz. You can see the rest of the guys there, but these are the top players by position, midfielder and forward for game week 29. Onto the clean sheet odds. So this is Draft Hounds working out of the likelihood of teams to keep clean sheets in each of their upcoming fixtures. It's in no particular order the way this has been worked out. I would suggest you can't really add up these percentages. It's very difficult when teams have a double game week. But I think based on the fact that Brighton have 40% clean sheet odds against Brentford and 36 against Bournemouth, they're probably combined the best teams for clean sheets. Arsenal top the tree in terms of single game week fixtures. They're 52% more likely than not, that shows, to keep a clean sheet against Leeds, followed by Man City, Tottenham and Wolves. I like quite a lot of these teams for clean sheets, and I won't really say any more than if there's any teams that are under 30% for fixtures, I wouldn't really rely on them for clean sheets, but anything above 30%, I think, their defenders are pickable. With the exception, I think, of Newcastle and Trippier. He's top of expected points just for the fact that you can just get bonus points and attacking returns for absolutely anywhere. So I don't mind him. But yeah, those stats are there for you to look at. Next up, we've got the goal involvement and goal scoring odds, and it's no real surprise to see Salah and Rashford near the top of the tree here because they're the highest players for expected points this week. Rashford across the double is 79% chance to be involved in a goal, 70% chance of scoring one. Salah also on 79% goal involvement, 63% chance of scoring. Nice to see Evan Ferguson up there for Brighton. He's having an outstanding season and he's definitely a player I've got my eye on. Unfortunately, I'm already tripled up on Brighton, so not much of an opportunity for me to bring him in, but maybe if you're free hitting a wild card in this week, it might be someone you're considering. I won't go through them all, but the rest of the players are on the screen. Okay, and that leads us to Draft Hound's top picks in the game for game week 29. So in goal, we've got Kepa, Trippier, Chilwell, Estupinian in defence, Salah, Rashford, Mitoma, Fernandes, McAllister, and Isaac in Tony up front. I don't know about you, game week, I think I wildcarded in game week 26 from memory. This is pretty much my team, so I'm quite happy to see that my team is reflected in the top picks, and I imagine quite a lot of these players are going to be quite popular. But yeah, maybe if you're looking to free hit this week or something like that, this is what the underlying data suggests is going to be the best 11 for this week. Okay, on now to some players that I'm looking to bring into my team. I currently have Zinchenko in my defence, and Luke Shaw being as far up the expected points list that he is, I'm really looking to bring him in. He seems to be Man United's first choice left back. He's on corners and he takes like the free kicks that are crosses in, not so much the direct ones, but the ones that involve a cross for an assist or whatever. He takes those, so that's quite exciting. He's got decent fixtures up until, unfortunately, he blanks in 32, then obviously a double in 34. His underlying numbers comparing to other defenders aren't amazing, but I still think he's the best of the United defenders, and we've got to note that he's definitely played more than, I think, 2 games at centre-back for Man United this season, which has obviously had a detrimental impact on his expected assists, because he's obviously not been getting forward as much when he's been playing centre-back. But yeah, I think for this double, Newcastle-Brentford, it's a good double for Man United, and I think I'm going to bring him into my team. Another player that I'm eyeing up, and we saw that on the expected points list, it's Isaac from Newcastle. He's the top striker in the game for expected points in game week 29. He's great value too at 6.7 million. I think across his career, he's not had an amazing injury record, but it's still better than Callum Wilson, who was obviously the alternative at Newcastle. And his underlying numbers are absolutely fantastic. He's pretty much third in forwards in the Premier League behind Darwin Núñez and Haaland. 0.88 expected returns per 90. And I think it's not looking likely, but there is a chance that Newcastle could still double in game week 31. I think Planet FPL James has said that it's not entirely ruled out that that could be the case. I might be wrong by the time this video comes up, but yeah, regardless of the double in 31, I think he's got a great run of fixtures, and importantly, he plays in 32, so I think he's a great option going forwards. Okay, next up, I already mentioned him and showed him in the top players for expected points this week. It's Mo Salah. He doubles this week, and I know it's Man City and Chelsea, but he's got a good record against Man City, and I think Chelsea are definitely weaker. It's safe to say they're weaker than they used to be. He's got a great fixture in 32 when you'll need him, because Man United, Brighton, Man City all blank, so he's probably the best captain in game week 32 with that Forest at home fixture. And he's only had 1 penalty this season. His stats in goals, they're not penalty padded, I'd never say that, but he definitely scores 3 or 4, maybe 5 penalties a season. This year, he's only had 1 and he missed it, so I think that's had a bit of an impact on his numbers too. But he's playing at 0.7 expected returns per 90. It's a bit down on previous seasons, but I still think he's probably the best of the Liverpool players. And yeah, Mo Salah captain in game week 32 just feels like the right thing to do. So for that reason, and the fact he's got a double this week, and I don't see that he's going to struggle to score against Man City and Chelsea, really. I think he'll have some good games there. Yeah, I definitely think he's a player you could consider bringing into your team. Up next, we've got Evan Ferguson. I think he's impossible to ignore. You know, he should be, in my opinion, the Brighton starting striker now. He's been playing so well that De Zerbi's really got to play him in most games now, I think, over Danny Welbeck. And he's only 4.6 million. And I think for me this is really exciting because you can have Kane and Haaland next to each other up front, and then Ferguson as your third, and that really allows you to restructure your team with the likes of 5 midfielders alongside Haaland and Kane with a stronger defence as well. And you can see his expected points over the next few weeks are really good. The one thing I would say is that his expected returns are definitely lower than his actual returns, which suggests he's sort of in a bit of a purple patch at the moment. But just having watched him in the games, I really think he's a great player, and he's going to definitely go places. And I do think he's just worth a shout. I think 4.6 million for a player that, even though he's not matching the returns in terms of underlying numbers, 0.49 expected returns per 90 for 4.6 million is just ridiculous. So for that reason, I think he's impossible to ignore. Bruno Fernandes up next. He's another one who I think is a good option for double game week 29. The only problem is he blanks in 32, as does Luke Shaw, because they both play for Man United. But yeah, strong fixtures in 30 and 31 as well, and then the double in 34. I think he's also impossible to ignore, and I imagine a transfer like Saka to Bruno will be quite popular this week. He's obviously the Man United penalty taker. He's come into much better form after the World Cup. And if you don't like him, if he doesn't be performing well, obviously Casemiro's got quite a lengthy ban. So he could play a bit deeper. And if we do find that happens, he can just be straight swapped back to Saka. But yeah, his underlying numbers are really good. They're not quite at the level they have been in previous seasons, but 0.62 expected returns per 90 is nothing really to be sniffed at. It's in and around the level that the Arsenal midfielders are playing at. So yeah, Saka to Bruno is pretty much a straight swap in terms of expected returns numbers. So yeah, for that reason, I can't ignore Bruno Fernandes. Then finally, a little bit of a comparison here between the Brighton midfielders. I imagine most people will have already taken their pick now and are running with it. But if you're maybe playing your wild card this week or a free hit, you might want a bit of analysis basically between the Brighton midfielders. Unfortunately though, I've done a bit, but I don't really think it helps you decide. From my perspective, it's a bit of a lottery on who you pick. So I would say that, but McAllister, in my opinion, is probably the strongest of the three. When he plays that more advanced sort of number 10 position that he does play, he's got the best XG of the three, and he's on the penalties and the free kicks. So for that reason, I think he's probably the strongest. Solly March, he's got the second best expected goal stats, and De Zerbi is putting a lot of attacking responsibility on him. Matoma, in my opinion, even though we saw him near the top of the expected points lists, he's probably the weakest of the options. I just think he's outperforming his expected goals a little bit recently. He's just somehow so clinical, and I do think that might fall off at some point. But he definitely is the best on the eye. And between Matoma and March, not much to choose. So for me, it's probably McAllister and then one of the other two. But ultimately, looking at those underlying numbers, really not much between them. So you've just got to pick two and run with it, really. And just to round things off, I mentioned this in my buy and avoid video just gone. We've got a bit of injury news on Erling Haaland. His dad, Alfie Haaland, came out in the news in the last week or so saying it's touch and go as to whether Haaland is going to be ready for the Liverpool game. And I think we know from the past that when Haaland's injured, Pep definitely doesn't say anything about it. So given that he's touch and go for the Liverpool game with I think it's a groin injury that he's out with. So we don't know how long that could go on for. So out for the Liverpool game, it would appear. And then is he out for 30 as well and 31 and beyond? Who knows? I think people who have sold him will be quite happy not to have to deal with this, and they can bring him back when he's solidly fit again. Those who still have him, banking on him doing well in 29, for example, even though he's only got a single, might be a bit scared at the moment. But yeah, that's the latest news we've got on Haaland. He's touch and go with this injury for game week 29. And that concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you agree or disagree with any of my thoughts here, I'd be interested to hear it in the comments. FPL is all about people with different opinions. If we all said and did the same thing, it would be a boring game. So I'm happy to hear whatever you think in the comments. And if you did enjoy it, if you found it useful, I'd really appreciate it if you left me a like rating and subscribe to the channel. I'm really pushing to try and get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the season. And I'd really appreciate it if you could come along for the journey with me. I've got plenty more content coming your way this FPL season, so if you want to see more, please make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.